Welcome to Happily Divorced with Karishma. When I think about money, I think about my father working 7 days a week, the sacrifices my parents made, and the massive guilt that came my whole life around spending. For so long, I carried those stories into my own life, specifically into my marriage. But last week, an unexpected conversation with my partner shifted everything. Today, I want to share that story with you and why abundance is not about how much you have, but about how deeply you allow yourself to receive. Let's begin. Welcome to Happily Divorced with Karishma. I'm so happy to be here today. Today, I wanted to pull the curtain back on a conversation that many of us need to have about stepping into our true inner abundance and how to really change that conversation, our relationship, our dynamics with money ourselves. I know as a woman, it's always been particularly hard for me, and, really bringing into the layers of conditioning. For me specifically, money has been really interesting. And, when we explore our relationship with money, what's really important is that, first of all, we all came into this planet fully abundant. And I believe that when God, I'm going to use the word God, source, created every single one of us, he didn't hold back and said, okay, you, Karishma, are deserving. You, Nancy, are not. You, Frank, are. Jeff, you're not, and so on and so forth. We all came into this planet, this universe, with this infinite potential, infinite possibility. And somewhere along the way, that potential, that possibility, and the fear, lack, scarcity that ensued became our version of reality. For me specifically, and every client that I work with, I really look at, our upbringing. And I came into the US as first generation, and my father was not educated. My father came from a very large family, a family of like 8 to 10 siblings. I'm not really sure. I haven't really had a relationship with most of them. And he was in the middle. And what that meant is by grade 9 or 10, he was already out in the world earning money. And he had to, just based on them being sort of lower middle class in India and everyone really having to pull their weight, where education wasn't really a luxury that was given to them. And so therefore, if I look back at my father's journey, and I'm going to use my father because he shaped a big part of my money old story, where money was always hard to come by. Money was always stressful. The only way you earn money is if you hustled after it. Money wasn't easy to come by. In my household, there was a lot of judgment that I heard about people that had money. Judgment around entitlement, judgment around vanity, or who are they to have such money? Who are they to, deserve? Sort of this judgment like for the negative. And then also this like looking up to people that had it too, like seeing them, adoring them, but then also judging the shit out of them. That was my family's dialogue when it came to money. But when I look at my father specifically and how he was raised and the upbringing that essentially we had, or I had, if we look at the first 5 to 10 years as the most formative years of our lives together, it's really important to look at that money story that we were exposed to. For me, that story was, the hustle, the grind, the sacrifice. Sacrifice was really big. I actually came to the US when I was 5 years old, and my parents struggled for many, many years in really doing the hard work to really create that American dream. And they really did, where they were able to retire by age 50, 55 with enough prosperity, enough money in the bank account where they really don't have to work another day of their life again. And just really through hard work, through sacrifice, through my dad working 7 days a week, through my mom being the primary caretaker at home, like really kind of working together to ensure the kids were taken care of and okay, and that money came in, there was just continual feeling of sacrifice and hard work and all of that. And it's interesting when I look back at my journey as an entrepreneur, I saw my parents as business owners for most of my life, but I had this underlying belief that entrepreneurship meant sacrifice. Entrepreneurship meant not being there for the family, as my dad barely spent like Friday nights. Some dinners we'd see him coming home after 8 p.m. most days. And then Sunday afternoon after 12 till the end of the day was really the only time we spent with my father, my brother, and I. So there was just like belief of the sacrifice. And in fact, I pushed away entrepreneurship for a really long time because I thought on some level I would be a bad mom. I thought I would have to like be that sacrificial lamb too. And I just, I think I saw that level of like obsession in my household with business and only talking about business, only talking about finances, stressing over finances. There was just continual kind of negative beliefs that I had over the years in my relationship with money. And again, that relationship with money, those beliefs became my beliefs because that's what happens. And then, of course, life mirrors you, life shows you who you are, life brings to you exactly your experience of the world into a reality. And I met my ex-husband who in many, many ways mirrored the same beliefs, that same fear, lack, scarcity. There's never enough money. We're never going to have enough. Money is super hard to come by. We have to hold on to money. We have to save money. It's not okay to spend. Like all of these beliefs were what my ex-husband had. So therefore, the conversation around money was just one where I felt a lot of guilt and shame in having, because on one level it was like I remember having these conversations with my ex-husband of like, well, we're both working, and what's the point of us both having incomes if we can't enjoy ourselves, if we can't travel the world, if we can't enjoy the nice things? And it's not about just being frivolous, but just like enjoying life, enjoying travel, not always taking the cheap path. And it was always this continuous battle around money or spending money, or almost being made to feel wrong because I would choose to occasionally have that indulgent spending. And just remember seeing his face fall every time where I would basically put money aside that was my money, and then I would spend it without him finding out. And that's exactly what my mother did in her marriage. And that's exactly what was modeled to me. So I thought it was completely okay to do that, where you just like hide those transactions, don't make it a thing, have a separate credit card. And now you have this peaceful dialogue about money, and then you don't have to feel the shame and unworthiness and guilt around all of that. So sharing all that with you to give you all context about what my money experience was and my relationship with money specifically, in hopes that you're able to tap into your relationship with money and how that became what it has been. So now fast forward, I'm in a different relationship, and it's not about the relationship is what I really wanted to put forth here. What I'm sharing about today is really about my relationship with abundance and my relationship with self. And what's crazy is, in my own journey, and even supporting hundreds of people through this journey of owning their worth and value, the first thing is like really recognizing on a deep level that my worth and value isn't based on what I bring to my bank account. My worth and value isn't some dollar amount that discerns, well, I've made it, I haven't made it, I'm worthy, I'm not worthy, and all of that. This relationship with money, first of all, starts with a relationship with myself, in which I get to recognize like, how abundant am I? How am I the source of my abundance? And like, I think for me, really defining what abundance means, really seeing that abundance isn't just about money, but it's recognizing I'm the source of my abundance. I'm the source of joy. For me, abundance isn't just about financial abundance. It's about joy. It's about time freedom. It's about connection. It's about fun. It's about contribution. It's about enjoyment. It's about permission to be all those things, and like really like connecting within to be like, oh my God, even on weeks, months, years where sometimes finances have been hard, to be like, oh my God, Karishma, like you're so worthy. You're so worthy. And your worth and value doesn't just come from your bank account, but it's like really intrinsically who you are, your worth and value, the light that you bring into the world, the joy that you bring to the world, the contribution you bring to the world, or just recognizing like, oh my God, I'm so abundant that the more that I feel abundant, and I really want y'all to take this away, if nothing else, the more that I feel abundant and I align with my inner abundance, the universe gives me how I feel about myself. And that means when those uncomfortable feelings come up, and they're still uncomfortable, I don't want to camouflage and pretend it's all hunky-dory, but there are days, moments where it feels uncomfortable. And I get to lean into that fear, be like, ooh, there's that part of me that feels like unsafe when she's spending, unsafe around this topic of money, unsafe about splurging, or oh my God, there's this like bill that came from left field. And I have those moments in my stomach, like most of us do. But like instead of shunning those, going back to the guilt, the shame, the unworthiness, be like, oh my God, like there's that old part of me that just really deserves a hug. There's that old part of me that I get to love on. And as these parts of us emerge, just getting to hold that part of me and be like, oh my God, it's okay. I love you. And what's interesting is this conversation, this inner dialogue with money is one that has shifted over time. Where now I may still have those feelings of fear and lack and scarcity, and I do sometimes. But now it's like really aligning deep within and be like, oh my God, like what is real? Not the story of what I've told myself that is, but what is real, that in this moment I'm so taken care of. In this moment, I have everything that I could ever want. In this moment, like God has been so generous with me. I recently ended up trading my car in for a much more expensive car than I'd initially allotted for. And like there was this part of me, like, my mind was like, yeah, well, this is kind of like a big purchase and can I do this? And all this noise was there. But then like really when I connected within, my gut told me it's going to be okay, Karishma. My intuition told me the money is coming, Karishma. The clients are coming, the money is coming. I don't know what the source of it is. It's none of my business to find out. But like really aligning with my truth, and my truth, which is in my gut, which is in my heart, was telling me I'm going to be okay. And I made a move forward. And it's like aligning with that truth within ourselves and being willing to go deeper underneath the fear, underneath the pain. And so what's crazy is the more I allow myself to connect with my feelings, to connect with like what's underneath that fear, and I just give it compassion, a warm embrace, the money stuff dissolves even more. It just is uncanny. So the more that I connect to like what I don't feel good about, right? Guilt, shame, unworthiness, and fear, lack, scarcity, and just like hug those parts of me, allow myself to love those parts of me, those dissolve into the illusion that they are. And I'm able to see it just for the facade that it is. So before I went to Mexico last week with my partner, and I've been a little bit MIA from this podcast space, just been busy and life has been happening and things have been amazingly unfolding. My partner shared this beautiful story about how, years ago when he became an investor, so essentially he had this job and he had some health conditions and he ended up quitting his job completely cold turkey. And his father, who had bought a hotel as a real estate investment asset, said, hey, go buy furniture for this thing. And like basically it was his way of like allowing him access into this world that he had. And he was empowering my partner to come into this world. Well, my partner came in and it was a hotel, big chain hotel, a Ramada Inn. The task at hand was to buy the signage. So my boyfriend comes in and he's like, okay, I'm going to buy the signage. And he ends up buying, instead of going the recommended route, which costs a few bucks, decided to play it cheap, find some bootleg dude in Houston to create this sign. And when inspection came around and they saw the sign, the Ramada people, basically that sign did not pass inspection. And that sign that was supposed to buy was a $50,000 sign. The sign he ended up buying was a $10,000 sign. And he had made a $10,000 mistake. And of course, he felt the guilt, the shame. Oh my God, I can't believe I did this. I can't believe I failed this one task that was so easy. And he went to his father and he told him. And his father just laughed at him, and said, it's okay. That's the only mistake. If that's the only mistake you've done this year, it's totally fine. I've done crazier things and it's okay. And I still love you. And I heard this conversation from my partner. I was just like, oh my God, like I've never received that from my father. And I've never ever received that permission to make expensive mistakes from my ex-husband. I've never allowed myself that level of compassion and grace within myself to make those really expensive mistakes. And my partner just looks at me and he was like, Karishma, I still love you, even if you make a $10,000 mistake. And like even just sharing about that story today just melts my heart, because life shows us who we are. Life shows us how we are. And this is not about my partner. It's really about me, because everything that I'm experiencing is really a reflection of what's going on the inside, where God, universe, source brought into my awareness this very conscious conversation about my permission to own my worth and value, that has nothing to do with my bank account, that has nothing to do with what mistakes I'm making, nothing to do with any of that, that somehow, somewhere in this world, there's this vision of unconditional love that's available to me. And how much does God love me in order to give me that? And what that means for me today is like I get to hold myself on such a great reverence to be like, Karishma, it's okay. It's okay to make that $10,000 mistake. It's okay to be fallible. It's okay to let go and not hold on. And like I spent some time reflecting after my trip, and it's like, oh my God, like, isn't that the purpose of money to give away? Isn't the purpose of money not to hold on? Isn't the purpose of money to allow joy and impact into the world? Isn't the purpose of money to create experiences for myself, for my kids, for my family, for my clients, for other people? And what would it look like instead of worrying about saving the money, that I get to just be okay owning my abundance, spending the money, aligning with that, be like, oh my God, like I am abundant. I do deserve. God's got my back. What does it look like? And I've just been reflecting on this the last few days on what it looks like to take action, truly aligned to that. So I'm excited. I'm excited at this new wave, this new way of being, where I get to redefine what that permission looks like on a deep level. And I'm sharing this with you so you can do the same for yourself and know that your abundance, your worth has nothing to do with something on the external. It has everything to do with you giving yourself permission to be who you really are, which is infinite abundance itself. Thank you for listening.